What if the Knights Templar weren't just warriors, but understood a form of psychology we're only rediscovering today? For many people, it sounds like something ancient and medieval, and why is it even relevant? Okay, well, it is, because in medieval times we had science and we had magic, and alchemy was in the middle. It was the bridge between the two. Okay, but actually, it can be seen as the precursor to modern psychology. Carl Jung, besides working with a few manuscripts that are Gnostic and being described as a Gnostic himself, and Gnosticism has everything to do with alchemy, okay? Or psychology, whichever way you want to look at it, even though we can trace back Gnosticism to the 1st century, okay? The easiest way we can understand it today for dummies is that bridge between the spiritual, okay, and the physical, the tangible, the material world, okay? In itself, it's a threshold. So alchemy is often identified with the mermaid, okay? The symbol of the mermaid. Alchemy as a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, between matter and spirit, okay, is connected. As I said, it's a bridge, it's a threshold. When we think of bridges, thresholds, liminal spaces, we think of the goddess, the feminine energy, Sophia, okay? Which is why the symbol for alchemy overall, especially when we're talking about alchemy as being a bridge, uniting opposites, okay? Uniting mundane and earthly, spirit and matter, feminine and masculine, conscious and unconscious within us, is the mermaid. Because the mermaid is what? She is half fish, half human, right? So half of the mortal world, really, but half of the sea, of the ocean world. And Carl Jung described the oceans of the sea as the murky waters of the collective unconscious, which is where basically our deepest thoughts are, the soul, okay, as a sea, as a murky sea, okay? And we can kind of see it that way. And it's the sea in which the mermaid, as a symbol, as an archetype, because mermaids are archetypes, but also a symbol of the bridge between the conscious and unconscious lives, okay? Now, the mermaid, we're going to see her come up a lot in Gnostic and Templar symbolism and in connection with alchemy always, okay? Because it is that bridge. Okay. This image comes from an alchemical manuscript, okay? Now, there's a lot to digest here, okay? So I'm going to make it easy. The first thing that I want you to look at to understand is the central image, which is the mermaid, right? Very easy to find, okay? Don't worry about the symbol on her head at the moment. I want to make it easy. She's in a sea, an ocean, yes? Okay? And there is a figure here to her left, which is a man with a sun on his head and a crown. He's a king, okay? In the figure to her right is some sort of queen, woman in a moon, yes? Okay? And then there's a figure here, which I'll get into in a moment, pouring something here, okay? So let's look at the middle of the image. What's happening there? This is called the alchemical marriage of the sun and moon. Okay. Now, I've said to you guys before I discuss this image that alchemy was a bridge between the spiritual and the earthly, between the conscious and the unconscious, between the opposites, the sun and moon, feminine, masculine, okay, spirit and matter, okay, and so on, between opposites, right? So the alchemical marriage, okay, alchemy can also be seen as a spiritual path. So alchemy medieval times was about transmuting metals that were not so valuable, like lead, into gold. Yes, that's true, okay. And fire was used for that. Fire is the alchemist's most important, so we say, tool for making this transformation happen. But we have fire in many ways, not just physical fire. So that's physical alchemy, as in done in medieval times with the metals, transmuting, converting a metal that's not so valuable into gold, which was the philosopher's stone, okay? However, we have spiritual alchemy too, okay? Spiritual alchemy is taking our soul, which has not been worked on, okay? And we can see this also in Freemasonry, which I'm going to make the parallel to in a minute, okay? So our soul transmuted into an awakened soul, okay? That's kind of what we're doing, okay? That is the Grail quest. Spiritual alchemy is what the Templars pursued. It was never about a cup or a dish. It is a spiritual journey, okay? So the most common symbol, before I get into the image, of the Templars on a horse, okay, which we can find many versions of it, okay? But if you see on the screen, okay, this is the most famous symbol of the Templars, okay? 2 Templars on 1 horse, okay? We can, regardless of the color of the horse, 2 knights on 1 horse, and you see the Templar cross there, okay? And then we see Matthew of Paris draw it here as well, okay, with the Templar Beauseant, which is very relevant to the 2 knights on the horse. God, sometimes I think that we just don't pay attention, guys, because it's telling us that it's dualism right here with the flag. However, if we visit the Templar rule, it tells us that the Knights Templar, the knights, actually got 4 horses, not 1. So the whole idea of them being too poor to own a horse between them falls apart there. They told you the Knights Templar were poor men with 1 horse. The reality? 3 was standard, and many had 4. And the greatest treasure they left behind was never gold or relics, but something far more powerful we've been ignoring. Join me next Tuesday to uncover it at the College of Psychic Studies on my live Zoom talk at 7 p.m.